My name is Hannah Clark, and I'm 16. I never imagined that a gaming console, something I bought with my own money, would become the battleground for my family's drama. Ever since my parents adopted Travis, a boy who spent his first 12 years in one of the city's roughest neighborhoods, our house had been tense. Travis had charm when it suited him, but fragile behavior when things didn't go his way. And unfortunately for me, I quickly became his target. It all started with the PlayStation 5 I had saved for months to buy. The day it arrived, I carefully unboxed it in my room, setting it up with precision. Moments later, Travis appeared at my door, pretending casual interest. "Wow, that's really cool," he said, eyes darting toward the screen. I smiled politely. "Thanks. It's mine, though. You can watch, but I'm not sharing yet." That simple boundary was enough to trigger the storm. Travis stormed to Mom, claiming I was hogging the console, ignoring his feelings, making him feel unwelcome. Mom, always eager to mediate, came to my room with a sweet but nervous expression. "Hannah, maybe you could share for a little while? Travis is new here, and he's still adjusting." I froze. "Mom, it's mine. I earned it. He's not adjusting. He's manipulating. I can't just hand it over because he pouts." Mom's smile faltered. I just think it's nice if you let him play." I clenched my jaw. That day, I realized something vital. Boundaries were going to be my only armor. Over the next few days, Travis escalated. He borrowed my controller just for a few minutes and returned it with fingerprints and scratches. He began leaving small notes in my room. "You're selfish. You make me feel invisible." One morning, I opened my locker at school to find a note stuck to my homework. "Your parents don't really understand you. I do." I crumpled it, but the unease stayed with me. Travis was strategic, calculating. He didn't lash out randomly. He studied reactions, tracked my habits, and adjusted his tactics to provoke maximum effect. Then came the first confrontation. After a weekend visit with friends, I returned home to find my console missing. Travis was in the living room, feigning innocence. "Where's your PS5, Hannah?" Mom asked, confused. I stared at him, suspicion growing. "Travis, did you touch it?" He shook his head, wide-eyed. "No, I didn't." The problem wasn't just the console. It was how easily my parents could be swayed by Travis's performance. His lies were polished, rehearsed, and persuasive. Meanwhile, I had no one to back me up. I began documenting everything. Screenshots of texts, timestamps of notes, even photographs of the console in my room. I needed proof, not just for my own sanity, but to protect my space, my possessions, and my peace of mind. By the end of that week, the situation had grown tense. Every interaction with Travis was charged. Every glance from Mom or Dad seemed weighted with judgment. I felt trapped in a home where fairness had been replaced by performance. It was that night I decided to take action. I packed the PlayStation and its accessories into a secure case, planning to move it to my friend Chloe's basement where it would be safe from manipulation. "Why are you taking that?" Mom asked, confused and slightly angry as I carried the case past the living room. "It's mine," I said firmly. "I've earned it. I'm protecting it. No one is going to manipulate me anymore." Travis, standing in the hallway, froze. His smirk faded. He realized the game had changed, and I wasn't just a passive player anymore. That night, I felt a small sense of victory. It was temporary, I knew. But for the first time, I understood something crucial. Survival in my own home required strategy, vigilance, and courage. And that was just the beginning. The next morning, Travis tried a different approach. Instead of attacking directly, he whispered half-truths to Mom about how sad and lonely he felt. Mom's face softened instantly, and I could see the gears turning in her head. My protestations fell on deaf ears. "You know, Hannah," Mom said quietly, "maybe you could spend some time with him today. He's really struggling to feel included." I swallowed my frustration. "Mom, I spend time with him every day. I'm not ignoring him, but he's not respecting my space either." She sighed, conflicted. I could tell she was torn between wanting to believe Travis and trusting me, but the seed of doubt had been planted, again. At school, the tension followed me like a shadow. Travis, cunning as ever, had friends in my grade who seemed to side with him instinctively. I overheard whispers in the hallway. "Hannah's so bossy. She thinks she owns everything." It wasn't just the console anymore. My reputation, my friendships, even my personal sense of safety were being eroded. I realized this was bigger than a video game. It was a test of boundaries, patience, and resilience. That afternoon, I met Chloe to drop off the console. She was the only friend I could trust completely, someone who understood the delicate politics of my household. Hannah, this is smart, Chloe said, inspecting the case. You're protecting yourself. You can't let him manipulate you. I nodded, grateful. It's not just about the console. It's about control. He's trying to make me feel powerless at home, and I won't let him. Chloe's eyes were sharp. Then you need a plan. You can't just hide and hope it stops. I felt a rush of clarity. I wasn't going to let Travis or anyone else dictate my life, not anymore. When I returned home, the atmosphere had changed. Travis was unusually quiet, hovering near the doorway, watching me with those calculating eyes. He tried to corner me in the kitchen, a sly grin spreading across his face. Hey, Hannah, he said softly. I just want to play for a few minutes. You won't mind, right? I stared at him, my voice steady. No, Travis, I'm done giving in. This isn't fair, and you know it. For the first time, I saw hesitation flicker across his face. He wasn't used to direct defiance, especially not from me. That evening, I wrote everything down in my journal, the manipulations, the whispers, the half-truths, even the small victories. It was more than a record. It was my strategy, my proof, my armor. Days turned into weeks. The battles continued, but I noticed a subtle shift. Mom and Dad started asking me for my side of the story more often, listening instead of just assuming. Travis's antics didn't stop, but I began countering them calmly, deliberately, without emotional outbursts. And then came the day that tested everything I had learned. Mom had invited a few neighbors over for coffee. I didn't know Travis had planned something. As I walked into the living room, I found him standing in the center, dramatically holding my journal in his hands. Look at this, he said, eyes wide, pretending shock. Hannah's been writing about me behind my back. She's so mean. Gasps filled the room. Mom's face paled. I took a deep breath. Travis, that's my journal. You had no right to take it. I write about my feelings. It's private. I'm not being mean. I'm protecting myself from manipulation. The room went silent. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Travis tried to speak, but I continued. I'm not going to hide or be silent just because you want to control the narrative. This is my life, my thoughts, and my boundaries. Mom looked at me, her eyes tearing up slightly. She realized the pattern she had ignored for too long. This wasn't just sibling conflict. It was a calculated attempt to dominate and manipulate. For the first time, I felt a surge of empowerment. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was standing my ground, and the balance of power in our home was starting to shift. That night, as I tucked my notebook away safely, I smiled. The road ahead would be tough, full of challenges and manipulation, but I had learned something crucial. I could defend myself. I could set boundaries. I could be heard. And I would. The next morning, the tension in the house was palpable. Travis acted as if nothing had happened, but I could see the gears turning behind his eyes. He had underestimated me once, and he wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Mom tried to mediate, her tone apologetic yet uncertain. Hannah, maybe we all need to calm down. Let's just move past yesterday. I shook my head. No, Mom. We can't just move past it. Travis's behavior isn't harmless, and pretending it is only makes it worse. I need you to understand that. Dad, usually quiet in these battles, spoke up this time. Hannah's right. We need rules, boundaries. This isn't just sibling squabbling anymore. Travis froze. His expression flickered between defiance and panic. He had always counted on Mom to shield him. Now, both parents were at least listening. But the real challenge was still ahead. School was harder than home. Travis had friends who subtly spread rumors about me, how I was selfish, bossy, or overreacting. It wasn't overt bullying, but a slow, insidious undermining of my reputation. One afternoon, I confronted the ringleader, a girl named Marcy. Why are you doing this? I asked, keeping my voice calm but firm. Marcy smirked. Oh, come on, Hannah. Everyone knows you think you're perfect. Travis is just trying to show us the real you. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. But I also have the right to exist without being manipulated or lied about. I suggest you reconsider your choices before this escalates. Marcy blinked, clearly taken aback by my composure. She didn't argue further. That small victory gave me hope. I could stand up to both Travis and his allies. Back home, I decided it was time to change my strategy entirely. I started documenting everything: interactions, conversations, manipulations, even the smallest incidents. My journal became my shield and my sword. I realized that in this house, information was power. One evening, Travis tried a new tactic. He approached me with an exaggerated show of vulnerability. Hannah, I don't feel like anyone cares about me. You're always so mean. I studied him carefully. Travis, I care about you, but I won't let you twist reality to suit yourself. You can feel whatever you want, but that doesn't give you the right to manipulate people. He stared at me, incredulous. I could almost see the thought forming. She's not going to break. Mom walked by at that moment and observed our exchange. Her expression softened, a hint of pride in her eyes. For the first time, she realized I wasn't just being defiant, I was protecting my mental space, standing up for my rights. The following weekend, Dad suggested a family meeting. Travis reluctantly agreed, clearly expecting it to go in his favor. I took a seat, my journal tucked neatly beside me, a tangible symbol of my preparation. Travis, Dad began, we've noticed repeated manipulations and lies. This isn't acceptable. Hannah has a right to her space, her possessions, and her feelings. Mom nodded. We all need to respect each other. Hannah, we trust you, and we want you to feel safe here. Travis's face flushed red, but he had no counter-arguments left. My careful documentation and calm assertiveness had left him with no room to maneuver. As the meeting ended, I felt an unfamiliar sense of relief. The power dynamics had shifted. I was no longer the passive target. I had a voice, and it was being heard. That night, as I reflected in my journal, I realized how much I had grown in a few short weeks. Travis's attempts to control and manipulate had forced me to develop resilience, clarity, and assertiveness. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. But even with these victories, I knew the battle wasn't over. Travis would try new tactics, subtle and insidious, to regain control. I had to remain vigilant, but now I knew I could face him with confidence and strategy. And as I closed my journal, I smiled. For the first time, I wasn't just defending myself. I was mastering the art of navigating a household where loyalty, love, and manipulation were constantly in flux. The next week brought a tense quiet to the house. Travis had grown cautious, watching me from the corners of his eyes, and for once I didn't feel the usual gnawing anxiety whenever he was nearby. It was a strange kind of peace, one that felt fragile and temporary, but I would take it. Mom approached me in the kitchen one morning, holding a mug of tea. Hannah, can we talk? She asked softly. I nodded, curious. I want to apologize, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I realize I may have enabled some of Travis's behavior by not addressing it sooner. I see now how strong you've been, and I'm proud of you. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. I just need you to continue to back me up, consistently, not just sometimes. She smiled faintly. You have my word. That moment of support was a small but powerful victory. I knew that having Mom fully on my side would make the upcoming challenges easier to face. School was a battlefield as usual, but my strategy had shifted. I wasn't just defending myself. I was anticipating attacks and preparing subtle countermeasures. I documented every insult, every rumor, every whisper. I learned to navigate social situations with precision, responding with calm and measured words, rather than reacting emotionally. Then came the incident that would push everything to a tipping point. It was a Friday afternoon, and the house was unusually quiet. Travis had invited a few friends over, and I could hear their laughter echoing through the hallways. I tried to ignore it, focusing on my homework, but then I overheard him. Don't worry, he was saying. I've got a plan to ruin Hannah's birthday party. She thinks she's untouchable, but we'll show her otherwise. My heart sank. This was different. This wasn't teasing or rumors anymore. This was an active attempt to humiliate me. I immediately went to Mom and Dad. Travis is planning something for my birthday. It's going to be humiliating. We need to intervene now. Dad's face darkened. That boy. He's pushing too far. Thank you for telling us, Hannah. We'll make sure this doesn't happen. They devised a plan to confront Travis before the party. The confrontation was tense, the kind of moment that could make or break everything. Travis, Dad began, we know about your plan. This behavior ends now. You will respect Hannah's birthday and her personal boundaries. If you don't, there will be consequences. Travis looked at me, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. He had counted on manipulating the situation, but this time, the adults weren't on his side. I stepped forward. Travis, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not going to let you ruin my day or control my life. You need to learn respect. He said nothing, his defiance cracking slightly under the weight of the combined authority of both parents and me. The day of my birthday arrived, and for the first time in years, it went smoothly. No manipulations, no whispered rumors, no schemes to humiliate me. I could finally enjoy the celebration, surrounded by people who respected me. As I looked around the room, I realized something important. I had changed. I was no longer the vulnerable girl who let Travis dictate the mood of the household. I was strong, assertive, and prepared to face whatever came next. Travis avoided me that day, keeping his distance, which in itself was a victory. I didn't gloat or punish him overtly. I simply lived my life, enjoying my birthday with a newfound confidence. Later that night, I wrote in my journal, "I've survived manipulation, intimidation, and subtle cruelty. I've stood my ground. And now, I'm learning not just to survive, but to thrive. The battle isn't over, but I finally feel like I can win." And as I closed the journal and looked around at my friends and family celebrating, I felt a quiet, unshakable certainty. No matter what Travis or anyone else tried to do, I would no longer be powerless. The weeks after my birthday were calmer, but a new tension simmered under the surface. Travis wasn't openly hostile anymore, but I could tell he was quietly plotting. I had learned to watch for the signs, the subtle smirks, the whispered conversations, the sudden disappearances whenever I entered a room. One evening, while doing my homework in the living room, I noticed Travis sitting across from me with his notebook open. He looked focused, almost studious, but I knew better. Something about the way his eyes darted around suggested scheming. I decided to confront him, not aggressively, but directly. "Travis," I said, keeping my voice calm, "what are you working on?" He froze, then smiled. "Nothing, just homework." I didn't believe him. "If it involves trying to embarrass me or cause trouble, I suggest you stop. It's not worth it." His smile faltered for a moment, replaced by something I hadn't seen before, hesitation. For the first time, I sensed that maybe he was starting to understand that his games weren't invincible. The next morning, things took a surprising turn. Mom came to me with a hesitant expression. "Hannah, Travis wants to talk to you," she said. I raised an eyebrow. Talk? Or scheme? Mom shook her head. "I think he genuinely wants to make amends. Maybe," she trailed off, unsure. I felt a mix of skepticism and cautious curiosity. "Fine, I'll hear him out." Travis waited for me in the backyard. The sunlight highlighted his nervous posture, and I realized he was unlike the confident, teasing boy I had dealt with before. "Hannah," he began, his voice low. I'm sorry. I've been mean. I wanted attention, I guess. And I didn't know how to handle it." I studied him carefully, noticing the honesty in his tone. "You hurt me, Travis, not just once, but repeatedly. It wasn't fair." "I know," he admitted. "I don't expect things to go back to normal right away. I want to try." It was a fragile truce, but it felt real. I nodded slowly. "Okay, we'll start over. But there are rules. No more schemes, no lies, and respect. Understood?" He nodded, a mix of relief and uncertainty on his face. "Understood." That evening, as I reflected on the day, I realized how much I had grown. I had faced intimidation, humiliation, and manipulation, and I had survived. More than that, I had learned to assert myself, set boundaries, and even forgive when the other person was willing to try. Life in the house began to shift. Travis became more cooperative, and though there were occasional disagreements, they were minor and manageable. Mom and Dad noticed the change too, and I could see a new sense of harmony settling into our family. One night as I lay in bed, I thought back to all the moments that had led to this point. The fear, the frustration, the silent battles in the corners of the house. And yet, I realized that every challenge had shaped me, strengthened me, and prepared me for the person I was becoming. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace in my own home. Not because the problems had vanished, but because I had found the strength and confidence to face them head on and to come out stronger on the other side. And as sleep finally claimed me, I made a quiet promise to myself. No matter what life threw at me next, I would never let anyone make me feel powerless again. The following months were quieter, but the calm was a careful balance, not a guarantee. I had learned to read the subtle signs, to sense when tension was simmering beneath the surface. Travis kept to himself more often, spending time in his room or the garage, sometimes even joining me in small projects, building models, organizing the garage, or experimenting with coding. Slowly, a tentative friendship began to form, built on shared interests rather than manipulation or attention-seeking. Mom noticed it too. One afternoon, she came into the kitchen while I was preparing a snack and smiled. I can't believe how much he's changed. He actually helped me with the garden today without complaining once. I shrugged, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He's trying, Mom. That's all we can ask for. Dad walked in then, overhearing our conversation. I'm proud of both of you, he said, his voice unusually soft. It's not easy to mend things once trust is broken, but you two are doing it. I felt a small spark of pride. For so long, I had felt powerless in my own home, constantly defending myself against hostility. But now it felt like I was finally gaining control, not by fighting endlessly, but by asserting myself with clarity and patience. School life mirrored this new stability. Teachers noticed a change in me, too. I was more confident, more articulate, and even willing to take risks academically and socially. While I still had moments of insecurity, everyone does, I had learned how to face them head on rather than let fear dictate my actions. One evening, I found myself sitting on the porch with Travis. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood. You know, he said quietly, I don't think I realized how much I hurt you until I saw you stand up to me. I guess I thought I could get away with anything. I nodded, looking out at the horizon. Maybe you could have in the past, but not anymore. That's the thing about life. You learn who you are and you decide what you'll tolerate. I decided I won't let anyone make me feel small again. He nodded slowly, thoughtful. I get it. I want to do better. I really do. I gave him a small smile. Then you'll have a chance, but don't expect it to be easy. You'll have to earn it. And in that moment, I realized something important. Growth wasn't just about surviving difficult situations. It was about learning from them, using them to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I wasn't the same scared, frustrated girl I had been when Travis first arrived. I was someone who could face challenges, set boundaries, and still offer forgiveness when it was deserved. Over the next few weeks, the small victories continued. Travis helped with chores, joined family activities, and even started opening up about his own struggles at school and with friends. Mom and Dad seemed relieved, and the household began to feel warmer, more cooperative. But I also knew that life wouldn't always be predictable. Challenges would come again, in different forms. New friends, school pressures, unexpected family issues. Yet, I felt ready. I had learned that my strength wasn't just in avoiding conflict, but in facing it with honesty, courage, and patience. One night, as I lay in bed, I thought back to all the moments that had shaped me. The humiliation, the frustration, the quiet victories. Each of them had built a foundation, preparing me to face whatever came next with confidence. And as sleep crept over me, I realized that I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving, slowly but surely, in a home that had once felt like a battlefield, but was now becoming a place of understanding, growth, and, finally, peace. Spring arrived, and with it, a sense of renewal that felt more than just seasonal. The garden bloomed in vibrant colors. The air smelled of fresh beginnings, and somehow our household seemed lighter, less tense, more hopeful. Travis had truly changed. He still had his moments of immaturity, but now they were punctuated by reflection, apologies, and efforts to make amends. One afternoon, I found him sitting on the porch with a notebook, scribbling furiously. Curious, I walked over. "What are you working on?" I asked. He looked up, eyes bright. "Just writing some ideas. Maybe a short story or a project for school. I think I want to try a science fair thing this year." I smiled, a genuine warmth filling me. "That's great, Travis. You've got a lot of ideas. It's good to see you channeling them." He shrugged, a faint blush creeping across his cheeks. "I never thought I'd actually want to do something productive. But I've seen how much effort you put into everything. It made me want to try too." Hearing that made my chest tighten, not with anger or frustration, but with pride. It was one of the rare moments when a child's respect feels earned, not demanded. Mom called us inside for dinner, and the smell of roasted chicken filled the house. Dad was setting the table, humming a tune I hadn't heard him hum in years. There was laughter, casual conversation, and a sense of belonging that had been absent for so long. During the meal, Travis spoke up. "Hey, Hannah, thanks for not giving up on me. I know I was difficult." I reached across the table, giving his hand a small squeeze. "You made it easy to care about you, once I stopped letting anger control me." Mom and Dad exchanged looks, subtle smiles of approval, and the warmth in the room felt almost tangible. For once, it wasn't about control, punishment, or favoritism. It was about connection, growth, and shared understanding. Later that evening, I sat on the porch again, this time alone, reflecting. I thought about how far I'd come, how I had turned frustration and humiliation into lessons, how I had set boundaries without hardening my heart, and how I had learned to recognize and nurture genuine change in others. I realized that the real victory wasn't in proving anyone wrong or exacting revenge. It was in reclaiming my own sense of agency. I had learned to define my worth on my own terms, and that was something no one could take away. Weeks turned into months, and I found myself thriving in ways I hadn't imagined. School became a place of opportunity rather than stress. I joined a local coding club, took part in writing competitions, and even started mentoring younger students. The confidence I had gained at home translated into my life outside. Travis flourished too. He won a small prize at the science fair. His story was published in the school magazine, and he began forming genuine friendships that weren't built on manipulation or pity. Our family dinners became a sacred routine, a space where laughter, mistakes, and heartfelt conversations coexisted. One evening, as we all sat together, Dad looked around the table and said, "I never thought I'd say this, but I think we're finally a real family." Mom nodded, her eyes glistening. "It's been a journey, hasn't it?" I smiled softly, feeling the weight of every struggle lift slightly. "Yes, but the journey isn't over, and that's okay. We're learning together." Travis leaned back in his chair, a sly smile on his face. "Yeah, and now I can't use my old tricks anymore. So I guess I have to be honest, this is weird." We all laughed, the sound echoing through the house, a pure, unforced joy that had been missing for years. As I headed to my room that night, I thought about everything I had endured, the humiliation, the tension, the frustration. Each challenge had been a test of patience and strength, but in the end, I had grown, not just into a caretaker or a mediator, but into someone capable of resilience, empathy, and real love. I opened my journal and wrote a final line for the night. I am no longer a bystander in my own life. I am the author of my story, and I choose how it unfolds. And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. The next morning, sunlight poured through my bedroom window, casting a warm glow across my desk. I could hear Travis humming downstairs, a sign that he was already in a good mood. I smiled to myself. His happiness felt contagious. Over breakfast, Dad mentioned he had some news. I got a promotion at work today. They said it was because of my leadership on the recent project. He looked genuinely proud. Mom reached over and squeezed his hand. "We'll celebrate tonight. But more importantly, I think we should celebrate all of us, how far we've come together." Travis piped up. "Does that mean no more punishments for my old mistakes?" I laughed, pouring him some juice. "We've all made mistakes, Travis. The difference now is that we learn from them." That day, I reflected on everything: the humiliation, the struggles, the betrayals, the anger, and the eventual healing. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about acknowledging it, learning from it, and moving forward stronger. I realized that life didn't come with guarantees. Family could be messy, relationships could fracture, and people could disappoint you. But growth, forgiveness, and resilience were choices, and I was choosing them every day. Later, I went for a walk in the neighborhood, watching kids play and neighbors greet one another warmly. I thought about my future, the college applications, potential careers, friendships I hadn't yet formed, the experiences waiting to shape me. For the first time, the unknown didn't feel frightening. It felt like an open door, an opportunity to define who I was, free from anyone else's judgment. As I returned home, Travis ran up beside me. "Hey, Hannah, want to help me build a model rocket? I got the kit yesterday." I laughed. "Sure, let's make it the best rocket ever." We worked together in the garage, laughing at our mistakes, celebrating small victories, and enjoying the rare simplicity of the moment. Watching him experiment, explore, and express himself freely filled me with a quiet pride. I knew then that love wasn't always grand gestures. It was patience, understanding, and the willingness to show up day after day. That evening, we gathered for a small celebration. Dad's promotion, our family milestones, Travis's science fair award, all of it felt significant. But the real victory was intangible, trust rebuilt, bonds strengthened, and hearts open once again. As night fell and the house grew quiet, I lay in bed reflecting on the journey. Every hardship, Every moment of humiliation, every tear had led me here to clarity, confidence, and inner peace. I knew challenges would come again. Life didn't end with this chapter, but now I had the tools to navigate them: resilience, patience, empathy, and self-respect. I had learned that no one could define my worth, and no circumstance could dictate my future unless I allowed it. Finally, I closed my eyes, letting sleep come gently. I felt a sense of completeness, not because everything was perfect, but because I had grown into someone capable of facing life honestly and bravely. And with that, I whispered softly to myself, "This is my life, my choices, my story, and I will write it well." The house was calm, the family asleep, and I smiled, knowing that tomorrow the journey would continue. But this time, I was ready for it.